Are you tired of waking up exhausted and then staying exhausted all day long? Let's put an end to that. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I do to stay energized all day long. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Jen Costanza. I am a holistic burnout recovery coach, and I work with high achieving professional women leaders who are struggling with burnout and want to be able to recover their energy and their zest and get some peace of mind, but without giving up everything that they've worked so hard to achieve. And here's the thing that most of my clients, when they first come to me, they're exhausted. They're just tired of being tired. And that might show up for them in the form of waking up tired and being tired all day long, or maybe waking up with a little bit of energy, fueling on caffeine, and then in the afternoon just totally slumping, not being able to function, be feeling really foggy for most of the afternoon until, unfortunately, around bedtime when suddenly you're having your second wind. If you can relate to any of that, and by the way, I used to go through this myself, then everything that I'm talking about in this video is going to be super helpful for you. Because my guess is that you want to have consistent energy all day long so that you can get more done, and then after work have both, the time to live your life and the energy to do fun things and live your life. And everything that I'm going to be sharing with you today, it is what I support my clients with when we work together in private coaching. And I call it foundational self-care. So I'm going to tell you what that is all about. There's three parts. And when my clients start implementing this foundational self-care, it literally skyrockets their energy. I have them rate their energy, and usually we're starting off around a 2 or a 3. And just within, anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks, they're in the 8 or 9 range. And that, I think, first of all, I think that's really amazing and important, but also it's really important because the type of women that I work with, and like I said, maybe this is you too, they're really burnt out and they need to make some major changes maybe in their life, like with boundaries. Maybe they have some big decisions to make about relationships or their career, work. And it's really hard, and I think not a great idea to make those kinds of changes or embark on that kind of challenging work, you having to have difficult conversations with people when you are exhausted. So, what I'm going to be sharing with you today, these three parts of foundational self-care, it's going to give you, it's going to give you the energy that you need to be able to start doing the tougher stuff in your life. So, with that said, let's get started. So, foundation number one, or part one of foundational self care, is food, or simple nutrition. And I'm going to be giving you, I think that diet and nutrition gets so overly complicated online, especially, if you're scrolling social media, you might see a lot of conflicting advice on there. What I'm going to be talking about today is just what you need to do to get back your energy. That is our main goal. You might have some other goals that you're thinking of in your mind when it comes to diet, like weight loss, or if you have any specific dietary restrictions, you might be thinking of those things. I'm going to be talking to you about one thing and one thing only: how to eat to have better energy. And literally, even though obviously this is what I work with, what I do to support my clients who are women struggling with burnout, this can literally apply to anybody. Anyone can benefit from the things that I'm talking about today. They're really simple. So, number one is eat balanced meals. That means in each of your meals, try to have a source of protein, a source of fiber, and a source of fat, ideally a healthy fat. This is going to give you more energy, a lot more energy than if you were just to have like a bagel or a muffin or pasta or some kind of meal that tends to have a lot of carbs in it. Oftentimes when we're stressed out, And oftentimes, when we have been experiencing a lot of low energy or energy swings, you've probably been eating a lot of what's called like empty or simple carbohydrates. So we want to shift away from that and start really focusing around strategizing our meals to make sure that we have protein and fat and fiber. Those are the three big things that you want to have. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is when it comes to the actual quality of your meals, you want to be focusing on eating whole, real foods. Now, best case scenario is that the food that you're having doesn't have a nutrition label. It's whole. Like you can actually see, oh, this is an apple, right? Or this is a banana. This is a head of lettuce, right? Ideal scenario. Sometimes I understand that's not possible. So look on the nutrition labels, make sure that you can understand all the ingredients on the nutrition label. And ideally, if it's a packaged food, get something that has less than 5 ingredients on it. Okay. We want to be eating whole, real foods as much as we can. A third tip when it comes to food, something that we want to do is to not allow ourselves to be going hungry. Okay. No starvation here. What does that mean? Well, many of you, I bet, like to skip breakfast. Maybe you think, I don't need breakfast. I haven't eaten breakfast in years. This isn't for me. I'm fasting, whatever. Let me just say this. There is a time and place for intermittent fasting, let's say. But if you are really struggling with energy and you've been skipping breakfast, now's the time to switch it up. Try something different. Start eating breakfast, even if it's just a small breakfast to start off. I had a client, she hadn't eaten breakfast probably in like 20 years. So we had to, we had to approach that very strategically, like try this and then try, little steps. But it made a huge, huge difference in her energy and in so many other things with her health. So if you're not eating breakfast, you need to fix that. The other thing that we want to fix is make sure that we're not skipping lunch. And associated with all of that, just make sure we're not skipping meals in general. So like have breakfast before, if you're going to leave the house in the morning, have it before you leave the house and carry snacks with you so that you don't get stuck, you don't get into a situation where you feel hangry. I know that you're probably familiar with that feeling, where you're both like hungry and getting angry and irritable and about to lash out at the world at the same time. We want to avoid that feeling. That is the feeling, when we get that feeling, what almost always immediately comes after it is exhaustion, even if we do get to have a decent meal after it. So carry snacks, eat breakfast, eat lunch, don't skip meals. Now, number 4 is I want you to delay your caffeine in the morning. I'm not going to tell you that you can't have coffee or that you can't have any caffeine at all. But I want you to try to have food before you have coffee. Or if you feel like you can't do that, at least have a big, tall glass of water in the morning before you have coffee. And ideal scenario, hold off on having your coffee for an hour. So like if you get up at 6 a.m., see if you can wait until 7 a.m. to have that coffee. It's going to help. Last couple of things that I want to mention when it comes to food. So one is stay hydrated. I find that most of the women I've worked with, and including myself too, we tend to go in either one of two directions. Either we're really good at hydrating, we're always carrying our water bottle, drinking plenty of water all day long, or you're not drinking anywhere near enough. And so having, staying consistently hydrated is going to have a really big impact on your energy. So you want to do what you need to in order to be drinking water consistently throughout your day. Okay. Now, one last thing that I want to mention here when it comes to, it's not exactly food, but when it comes to, what we're putting in our bodies that's going to impact our energy levels is alcohol. I know that when you are under a state of extreme stress, when you're burning out, at night it is really tempting to grab a glass of wine or a beer or whatever your favorite drink is, and maybe two, in order to kind of unwind for the day. It might be the thing that you're looking forward to all day long. And it might be, if you are really struggling with energy to the point where you can't, but also stressed out and to the point where you can't sleep at night, then that glass of wine might be the thing that you need to get to sleep. But I can tell you that it's really not doing you any favors, unfortunately. It's making your energy problems worse. And it's going to be making your sleep worse as well. So, to the extent possible, we want to remove alcohol from our life, especially during the work week when you really need to have optimal energy during the day, right? Now, I want to mention two things about why I have given you the ideas that I've given you, right? So one thing that most of the tips that I have provided you so far do is that they help to balance or stabilize your blood sugar. I'm not going to get into the specifics of this, and it has very little to do with whether you're diabetic or pre-diabetic or anything. I know when we hear that term blood sugar, for most people, they hear that term and they think, oh, that's diabetes. Doesn't have anything to do with me. I want to tell you, yes, it does. You don't need to know all of the details, all the science behind it right now, but let me just say this. When we eat in a way that makes our blood sugar spike up, what happens after it spikes is it comes down. And when it's coming down, that's when you get that hangry feeling. And that is super stressful on your body, and it's exhausting on your body. And it messes with your energy. And especially if you start your day with either just coffee or with some other kind of, meal that has, or even snack that is really high in sugar or other kind of carbohydrates, like a muffin or a bagel or something like that, that spikes your blood sugar. And it sends you into what's called, what some people call like a blood sugar roller coaster, where you're going up and you're going down again, you're going up and you're going down again. It's super exhausting for your body. So everything that I'm telling you to do here is aimed at helping you avoid that blood sugar roller coaster and instead have steadier blood sugar and steadier energy through the day. The other thing that I am suggesting here is, when it comes to the quality of the foods we eat, when we eat whole, natural foods that have a lot of nutrients in them, that is one of the ways that we can help our bodies to de-stress. Stress obviously makes us exhausted. I think we can all agree on that. Now, foods like processed foods, DoorDash, alcohol, garbagey kind of foods that come in boxes and bags and cans and all of that, they tend to be stressful on the body. And at the same time, those foods, when we're eating those foods, we're also not eating the foods that have all the nutrients that our body needs. We're basically depriving our body of nutrients. So what we want to do is eat in a way where we are not adding to the stress that we're already dealing with in our lives. We're like not adding stress into our body. And we're also like lessening the stress that we're dealing with by eating really nutritious foods. So that's why all of the recommendations that I'm giving you for food, that's a rationale behind them. So I want to move on to tip number 2, or foundation, self-care foundation number 2. 2, not 1, 2. And that is sleep. Obviously, you need sleep. I think we can all agree it's not rocket science. When you have a good night's sleep, you usually feel way better the next day, energy-wise. And the other thing is that when we are continually sleep deprived, or even just for one night sleep deprived, we don't just feel tired the next day, it also exacerbates stress and anxiety. It makes us more prone to stress, makes it harder for us to just deal with life. And that even further depletes our energy. So, sleep has to be a priority. You need to do whatever is required to prioritize it. And by prioritize it, I mean do whatever is required to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. That is the, generic recommended amount of sleep for most adults. And you might find through your experience that 7 or 8 or 9, you might have a number in mind that, when you get that amount of sleep, you feel really refreshed the next day. So whatever that number is, focus on it and do whatever's required to get that amount of sleep. Now, there are a lot of things I could talk about when it comes to sleep. And I'll put it in the video description, a pretty comprehensive blog post that I wrote on sleep that gives you a lot of ideas to work with. But honestly, I'm going to give you what I would say are the top 3 things that are super tangible that you could start implementing right now to be getting better sleep. So, number 1, and this is literally of everything that I'm talking about in this video, if you could choose just one thing to implement, this would be the thing that I would focus on, is getting morning sunlight. Meaning, like, when you get up in the morning, immediately put on your sneakers and go outside for a quick walk around the neighborhood, like 15 minutes. Expose yourself to sunlight, or if it's cloudy out, just being the sunlight, basically it penetrates through the clouds, so you don't have to worry about that. Obviously, this is a little tricky if it's raining. Like, as I'm recording this video, we're having a massive storm here, so I didn't get to get my morning sunlight today. There's going to be some days when you can't. But generally speaking, if you're able to get morning sunlight, that is going to do wonders for your sleep, because it helps to set your body's internal clock, and get you more in tune with nature's natural circadian rhythm. So basically, it helps you to be able to have more energy during the day. And also it kind of sends a signal, the sunlight sends a signal to your body and your brain that, about 16 hours later, it's time to go to bed. So it's going to make you more energetic during the day and feel more relaxed and tired when actual bedtime rolls around. So that is literally the number 1 thing that I would recommend. And the cool thing is that you don't actually have to go outside and be taking a walk. You could actually be just going outside and just sitting down and, having your breakfast outside or something. You could be going outside and reading a book. You don't have to be going for a walk. I actually had a client who was in such a state of exhaustion that she couldn't imagine taking a walk first thing in the morning. So instead, she sat outside on her deck, and that was her morning sunlight, and it made a huge, huge difference. So that's number 1. Second big tip that I would advise you to do is try to limit your exposure to screens before bedtime. So screens, I'm talking about like your phone, right? Your phone, your computer screen, iPads, whatever. You want to limit your exposure to those screens because they are giving off a kind of light, blue light, that sends a signal to your brain that it's daytime. And so it makes it so that when you're lying down to go to sleep, it's harder for you to get into that deep sleep, because even though rationally speaking that it's time to go to bed, your brain is still operating as if it's like daylight. So to whatever extent possible, you really need to limit your exposure to screens before bed, and ideally, at least an hour. And if you can, more than 1 hour, maybe a couple hours before bed. Obviously, there's a lot of strategizing that we could talk about around that. I'm not going to get into it right now, but, because I know that many of you, your favorite thing to do is probably to scroll your phone in bed at night. But this is just your friendly reminder that if you're struggling with sleep, it's pretty counterproductive to be doing that. So that's my tip number 2. And tip number 3 when it comes to sleep is to plan your bedtime and wake time so that A, it's at the same time every day, and B, that you're planning enough time so that you are getting enough sleep. So let's say that I wanted to sleep, let's say I knew that I needed 8 hours of sleep at night and that I needed to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day. Now, obviously, 8 hours of sleep, waking up at 6, that means I have to be asleep by 10 p.m. Notice I said asleep by 10 p.m. I didn't say in bed by 10 p.m. It's going to take most people about 30 minutes from when you actually get into bed till when you're able to fall asleep, even if you are not struggling with insomnia. So that means I should be planning to be in bed with the lights out at 9:30. So whatever your schedule is and whatever your optimal amount of time for sleep is, I want you to add 30 minutes onto it so that you can make sure that you fall asleep on time. And I want you to try to maintain the same schedule every day and including on the weekends. Yes, including on the weekends. When we, allow ourselves to sleep in all weekend, it messes things up and it makes it feel like you have like jet lag on Monday when you're having to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning again. So those are the number one things that I recommend that you start with when it comes to sleep. The third thing that I am going to talk about is movement, exercise. You need to move your body. You will have more energy when you're moving your body, and it's also going to help you release some of the stress that's building up in your body, right? And the cool thing is that when we're just talking about exercise for the sake of giving ourselves better and more consistent energy throughout the day, it doesn't have to be complicated. We want to uncomplicate this as much as possible. It doesn't need to be complicated and it doesn't need to be like crazy. Like we don't need to be going to the gym and doing like a HIIT class every day. We don't need to be, going running. You probably don't even have the energy for that. Instead, I just want you to do whatever works for you and will get you moving each day. So just for example, if you are currently like feeling really burnt out and you've got really low energy, take it easy. Maybe for you, movement is just, going for a walk or going for, a short walk in the morning and a short walk around lunchtime or in the evening or something. Maybe it means going to a slow flow yoga class, right? We can save the hardcore workouts for when you've got your energy back under control. So yeah, just whatever, just make it simple, make it easy, make it enjoyable for yourself, just get in some movement. So we've got food, diet, we've got sleep, we've got movement. That is what I call foundational self-care. And those are the things that when you start implementing them, you're going to see your energy skyrocket pretty fast. And the thing is that when we take these steps to improve our energy on like a physiological body-based level, the cool thing is that it's usually going to spill over into how you're feeling, mentally and emotionally too, which for many of you, I'm guessing, is also something that you've been struggling with. I know that it is with most of my clients. I know that it was for me when I was really burnt out, that it wasn't just that I didn't have energy like in my body. It was just kind of like a feeling like I'm waking up in the morning, but I'm not excited, right? Or I'm just slogging through the day. I have energy, but I don't want to be doing, but I don't, I can't focus. So doing these things, just starting to implement this foundational self-care to revive your energy physically, it will spill over into how you feel like mentally and emotionally. That said, it is limited because if you're burnt out, you need to go a lot deeper than this. You need to start refueling your mind and refueling your spirit. So, for example, some ways that we might do that is like setting boundaries to start protecting your time and your energy. Oftentimes, the reason why we're so exhausted is because we keep saying yes to doing things that we don't like doing, you know? The other thing that we could do is really inserting more fun into our lives, fun activities, and spending time with people who uplift you, who really, uplift your spirits and make you happy. That is, has nothing to do with, it sounds like it has nothing to do with your physical energy, but it'll spill over just like physical energy will spill over into your emotional state. That emotional energy, that is going to revive your emotional energy and it'll spill over into your physical state. It's all over, going to make you feel better. And then a third thing is regulating your nervous system so that you can get out of that constant state of fight or flight if that's what you've been experiencing. If you've been experiencing chronic stress, that is a huge I can't even what's the word I'm looking for? Underestimate or there's no way for me to minimize or overestimate how I'm getting confused with the word here. Stress has a huge impact on your energy, probably bigger of an impact than you even realize. So if you can learn to deal with stress healthfully, start regulating your nervous system, you will see a huge increase in your energy overall. And these steps, boundaries, refueling with things that light you up, regulating your nervous system and dealing with stress, this is what's going to make all of the foundational self-care that we've talked about, the diet, the sleep, the exercise, it's what's going to make it sustainable. It's what's going to make it work for the long term. So it's the place where you start is with the foundational self-care, but eventually for most of us, in order to make it stick, we need to do a little bit of adjusting with how we're dealing with our relationships, with our boundaries, with our work life, so that we can make that self-care sustainable and so that we can make our energy, our good energy, sustainable. So if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. And I have a couple resources that would be really useful for you. They're in the description down below. So one is a free burnout recovery guide. You can grab that. And if you have been struggling with burnout or feeling a lot of stress lately, that is going to be a huge help in helping you figure out, where do I start kind of getting unstuck from where I am. And then the other thing that I can offer you to support you is a free burnout breakthrough assessment. It's basically a free call with me. If you would like some support in starting to implement the things that I'm talking about in this video, that is essentially a big part of what I do in my private coaching program, Thrive. And the first step to learning more about that and learning if that would be a good fit for you and if we're a good fit to work together is by booking a free call. So I encourage you to hit on that button and book some time on my calendar and we'll have a chat. So that's all for today. I hope that this was helpful and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.